5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome to the Dangerzone. We're back here with We the Willing, and we are here to talk about art with meaning.
Yep, art with meaning. So the first piece I think we're going to talk about is one we released maybe 6 months ago. Was it now?
Yeah.
It was released with one of our brothers that started a company known as SOF. And we originally did this design for them. But you're actually wearing this shirt right now, so that's the actual shirt we're talking about.
And for those of you that watching, I mean, you can obviously see in the lower left corner a smaller version of it. I'm wearing the shirt, but if you are listening to this, where can they find the art or the shirt? On
SOF's website, I think they still sell the SOF Mistress T-shirt as well as one of our other designs. I don't know how many they have, but it's been out for a while now, so they might be able to pick up one before they're gone for good.
Cool.
But I just definitely wanted to get back to the art with meaning. So most of our pieces we create, they may look to some as just another piece of art. Maybe it's a flash style tattoo or some type of neo-traditional piece. But for us, like this project, We the Willing Collective, was a project we started, we talked about in the first podcast of being able to kind of put it all out on the table with our artwork. This piece in particular was something that was imagery from a poem that definitely spoke to a lot of us, or still speaks to a lot of us to this day. And, I have the poem right here, actually. It's a poem written by James R. Ward, who was an OSS officer, Operation of Strategic Services. And the poem says, Men, Special Forces is a mistress. Your wives will envy her because she will have your hearts. Your wives will be jealous of her because she will have power to pull you away. The mistress will show you things you've never seen before, and you will experience things that you have never before felt. She will love you, but only a little, seduce you to want more, to give more, and to die for her. She will take you away from the ones you love, and you'll hate her for it. But leave her you never will. But if you must, you will miss her, for she is a part of you that will never be returned intact, and in the end, she'll leave you for a younger man. That was one of the... I stumbled upon that one day, probably in 2010, I want to say. Around 2010. And it always kind of like rang true for me. I don't know, maybe one day I'll look back and see the true meaning of what that meant to me. But, it's one thing to make a piece and to put everything into it, as far as like, my meaning for it.
Right.
But one of the things we wanted to do with the We the Willing Collective project was to kind of, put our emotions and put out our feelings on paper, but it was to help like other people kind of get through things in their life, use it as inspiration, use it as, maybe a lesson that you don't need to learn the hard way, or maybe it's something that you've gone through that kind of rings true to yourself. So I think with this one especially, to me, I look at it and I know what it means to me.
Right.
But I think it'd be an awesome opportunity, now having you here, you own the shirt, you've seen the real piece in person. I mean, how does this piece speak to you as an individual?
Well, just right off the bat, just looking at it, and for those of you who don't know, we actually have the original right here in front of us that I'm looking at. And I just want to say right off the bat, it's very powerful. It's a very like deep seated feeling I have of emotion when it comes to this thing. And if I could describe that, it's a feeling of like pride in what I did in my job, and an appreciation for that time in my life. And I think that's a theme here, is time as well, and that there's an expiration date on the job I did. And so for me, it's like it's a very encompassing piece where I'm having multiple strong feelings of accomplishment of what I did, a recognition and acceptance that I'm not doing it now, and then the strength to continue and move forward with the same spirit I had when I was doing that job.
Do you feel like, so you obviously see a lot of the writing itself, like James R. Ward's, words depicted in the photo or into the artwork itself.
Yeah.
Those kind of is that the imagery you think you would see if you were to think of that in your head?
I think the fact that it's actually drawn as a tattooed woman, it matches. It's almost a perfect representation in my mind, because you're taking the literal words that he's describing, right? The mistress, right?
Yeah.
The time he says, we'll show you things that you'll experience, things that you've never felt. She's special, and she's different, and she's very standout, and it's taking those literal parts from the poem, and putting them in this image that you're relating to that literal image, but you're also it draws your mind to all the external themes that are in the poem, and I can go through, and we can kind of go through the lines here.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
And kind of talk about the application of what he's talking about, and how it speaks to me, I guess.
Because it almost sounds silly, like a job in the military, or whatever you have your passion in. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about, it plays on the strings of any profession that you've dedicated your life to. I don't think it's specific to just one thing. But yeah, I would definitely like to hear about what that means to you in your personal experience, because like you said, you've been kind of tore away from this mistress.
Yeah.
And not in a way that you foresaw maybe, 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, just again, a lot of the tattoos she has are just traditional, and but anyways, let's get into reading the poem. Sorry, I was getting lost in the gaze of the mistress as I was.
What's a funny one about this one is this was a piece that I actually didn't draw. I painted this one, but the other half of We the Willing, which hopefully one day you'll have on one of your podcasts, he was the actual creator of this piece. Generally, when we make our pieces, we do a lot of talking prior to, and what certain things mean in there, and there may be an experience that I had or that he had, and we want to bring those together. So I just wanted to make sure that people out there, the audience, understood that right now it's two of us doing a lot of the artwork, and there's a lot of him poured into this as well. It's not just, an image that I did, which is the beauty of, that collective. But to digress.
No, that is important to note, is that this isn't just a one person project, and that it's through this even discussion we're doing now is it's getting other people involved.
Definitely, as that collective.
Yeah. So right off the bat, starting on the first lines of the poem, men, special forces is a mistress. Your wives will envy her because she will have your hearts. And for this, the job that we're doing as a special operations guy is at such a demanding level where you in order to do it well, you have to love it. You have to be so committed to it that you have to put it over your family. And I guess that's where it comes in. You love her so much, that being the job, that you're willing to volunteer for deployments. You're willing to choose to go over to some war zone as opposed to spending time with your family, which is a choice. I mean, at the end of the day, you can choose to get out of it,
Now, why did you think at that point in your life choosing, to be this type of person, I guess, was more important than, say someone's wife? I mean, that's a big statement, saying at that point in time, it was I kind of had to I guess prioritize or something, what do you think?
I think that's something in the beauty of this mistress, is in the mysterious part of it is it's the commitment's there, and it's not necessarily something that you even want to put words to, you don't want to have to tell your significant other pretty much the job's more important than you,
job's a side chick, I guess.
Honestly, there's a big reason that divorce rates are so high in special operations, is because a lot of women see the writing on the wall, and they can't hang with being basically second to the job, even though that's what the job requires,
That's deep stuff.
And so, but there are some women that can. Some women can realize that there's strength in themselves, and they're empowering their loved one to be able to do the job, at that level where he needs to be, and you basically having it be first in his life. So it's this huge. So right off the bat, you're in this huge conflict, right?
Yeah.
And it's a tumultuous relationship, and there's ups and downs, just like there is in everyday life. But I would say there's big extremes, and that you have to be, in order to do the job successfully, you have to be able to weather those, big ups and downs. Moving on, your wives will be jealous of her because of her power to pull you away. And I think I sort of alluded to that, but we will choose her over your wife, or your girlfriend, or your younger siblings bar mitzvah, or you're gonna choose it over everybody else almost every time, and that's where the divorce rates come in. That's where your relationships are going to suffer because of it, and it's a choice. And if you know that going into it, it can help you find relationships that actually help support it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, I was able to do that, but never for a second was I not more dedicated to the job,
Yep.
The mistress will show you things never before seen, and you will experience things that you have never felt. So in looking at this piece, and like, I'm thinking of sort of this like romantic feeling of like the first time I was with a woman, or whatever. And it was this strange, mysterious thing. And like, it was so awesome. Right. And it's this beautiful experience where I had never experienced this before. Right.
Yeah.
And, the art piece itself, you have this, tattooed woman that's like, she's not your average woman, right? She's got tattoos. There's something very mysterious about her that you can see in the art that's, you're going to experience something different with her, whether that's through your relationship or, being with her. But
she definitely has that like sultry look to her to kind of like, antagonize any guy to kind of come over there and try to talk to her.
Yeah.
Crush on her,
There's that intriguing look about her that you wanting to know more, right? And see what she has to show you, or the story she has to tell. But so that's a little bit about the imagery of that, but the deeper meaning, I guess, is when I wear the shirt, what it reminds me of is the crazy, wild experiences that I had being in special operations, and that wouldn't have happened unless I committed to special operations, And so, this couldn't be more truer with, I would say, as far as experiences, like the traveling all over the world, right? Mm-hmm. Spain, Germany, going to, Afghanistan, going all over the U.S. for training.
You don't think those are things that you would have ever done by yourself if you hadn't joined the military?
I would say, yeah, I probably would have.
Really?
But I probably wouldn't have gone to Afghanistan, you know.
It's probably not a place you want to visit.
And I wouldn't have gone to some of the schools in like places in the U.S. if it wasn't for that, like going skydiving and stuff like that. That's like free fall school.
So it's almost not like they're just locations, but like actual experiences, like life experience that you probably would have never got anywhere else.
Yeah, diving at night on a rebreather where you have like phosphorescence, or is that what it's called? The like the algae that are like glowing underwater and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, when would I have ever thought to go experience that, and having like dolphins nip on my fins as I'm finning in like total darkness, except for these like little glowy like algae stuff, And that was a super cool experience for me. And I wouldn't have, had I not done this job. Like that's the mysterious part, right?
Yeah.
There's things that you get into that you didn't even know what you were getting into. Like you wanted to do this job, but you had no idea it was going to like what it's going to entail, and the extent of the things it will show you. And I would say, beyond that is just bringing me into combat. Granted, not everybody sees combat, but for me, it took me there and more, and how, you can experience that in different ways. I would say even the different layers of combat. I had a very unique experience of combat, where I'm in a group of, five Americans with like 25 Afghan special forces guys at a little forward base, and that's all we have. It's two Marine special operations guys and four Army infantry, and like we're calling the shots. It's like, so now you're talking about even a different experience when it comes to combat. And
so what about the thing where it says like she'll love you but only a little bit? And what does that mean to you?
Where is that at? Let's say you wait for
the mistress will show you things you never felt before, and you will experience things that you have never before felt. She will love you, but only a little.
okay.
Seduce you to want more, to give more, and to die for her.
Right. Yeah. So I would say, being in special operations, like, you're definitely taken care of, right? There's access to like gear and other things that, grunts and other people don't necessarily have access to, right? Because you have larger budgets, it's a smaller group of people, so you can, that's a double-edged sword. Like, you're doing stuff that's like, so you do something that like brings you to the most discomfort you've ever had in your life, but yet you still find some, it still gives you some comforts. But for loving you, I don't know that this part of the poem speaks to me as much as the others. Maybe what I would draw from it is that, again, back to the time, there is an expiration date on how long this thing, right? This thing that I'm a part of,
This fling
can be bestowing on me these gifts of adventure and everything,
Yep.
right? It's only for a little while in the big scheme of things. And yeah, it will seduce you to want more. You're constantly, when you're in it, you're like, when's the next deployment? When am I going to go to this next, training to get these skills? And like, you're thinking of the area it's in, right? Like, I'm going to be able to go explore this area. And yeah, you're going to want to just continue to give more, right? With each deployment, you're just like, you're getting burnt out, but you're like, fuck it. I got some more. Like, I got some more in me. Like, just, you can wring me to the last drop. And yeah, and die for it, dude. Like, I was totally ready to die. Like, all my deployments. And I almost like wanted to die for her, in a weird way. And I think that goes back to a different poem about, an athlete dying young. That one where it's like, is it better to die when you're young and in your prime, where like people remember you as this war hero, or do you become old and like forgotten about? But yeah, I was totally ready to die for this girl, and and ready to die for the men around me, Yeah. And there was no question about it. And so she will take away from the ones you love, and you will hate her for it, but leave her you never will. This is like missed opportunities with family, missing family and friends' weddings, losing touch with family and friends, never being able to like keep solid communications with people. I rarely even talked to my own parents while I was in. I've just, since I've been out, I've like rebuilt. I've had to like go back and rebuild relationships with all my family because I just like never talked to them. When I had time to talk to somebody, I was talking to my wife. Like that's, you know, that's how much it took away from the ones I loved, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't a lack of me loving my family. I still love my family. It's just the job demanded my time, and you know, when you're deployed, you'll go times where you can't talk to people, you know?
Yeah.
Whether you don't have access to communication or it's just, it doesn't make sense to talk to people. And if you do have that little bit of time, you have to make choices, and usually it's one go-to person that you're calling, you know?
Yeah.
And then but if you must, oh wait, no, skipped over. So she will take away from the ones you love, and you will hate her for it, but leave her you never will. But if you must, you will miss her, for she is a part of you that will never be returned intact. And this is where, as a guy who's out now, this is where, like, towards the end of this poem, it's just like all the stuff prior to this is kind of like what it was like working the job. And that's the reminder of like how I said initially, looking at this place, like it brings this feeling of accomplishment and like thinking of the good times, right? Like all these crazy, wild experiences. And I'm like, fuck yeah, like that happened, right?
Because the image is almost, you know, a girl that you'd want to have like on your, hanging off your arm, you know?
Yeah. Or in your memories, right? Of like this beautiful woman you hooked up with, or, you know, or just was able to share a moment with.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Like all that beginning stuff, that was a moment I shared with Special Operations, and it was beautiful. It was like, it was so fun, and it was a great experience. But now this is where it's like I got pulled out of the job. I had to leave it, you know, before I wanted to. And, you know, I wanted to do this job for 20, 30 years, you know, be Master Chief Dan Brown, you know, and, you know, who knows, go into space someday as a, you know, Master Chief. And, but things happen that are out of your control. And, that just back again to the like tumultuous relationship with this woman. And that's why it's a mistress. You know, it's not just this like steady relationship where everything just goes kind of smooth and planned and like, hey, we've been together for 50 years and, you know, we love each other and this is how you have a successful relationship. Like, no, this shit's crazy. And like,
because if not, it wouldn't be a mistress. It would be your wife. And
unexpected shit happens, and some unexpected shit happened. And, my time ended early for me, you know? And so this, you know, you will miss her. What I miss about her is missing being with the guys, right? With the brotherhood that Special Operations creates through these tough ups and downs. Everybody being in this experience together of everybody's so committed to the job, and within that you're so committed to each other, right? Because each other are the job. You make up the team, and that's where you almost, it's so hard to replicate that in anything else, you know, because that was my passion. That was what I was pouring my entire life into, right? So to try and switch from that to like something else and be able to find that same level, Like, you're just not going to.
Yeah.
And so I look at this and it makes me think of the brotherhood. And the good thing about having this on a t-shirt and, hopefully on my wall someday, I, get a print of this, is it's a reminder to call my brotherhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do miss it, but you know what? The guys that I care about, the guys that I'm like, had these experiences with,
Yep.
they're a phone call away, and I can like dip my finger back in it, right? I'll never be completely back in it,
Mm-hmm.
but I can kind of pull back, the veil and just, kind of gaze back into what it was.
So it almost speaks to, for she is a part of you that's never going to be returned intact.
Right.
Because you're just, I guess, I don't know, would you say you always feel like, it just took a chunk out of you that you're not getting that thing back?
Yeah, but there's all this scarring around it that kind of left it over, and it's it's, you can kind of look and see the imprint of what was there, or if you got branded by something, right?
Yeah.
That thing is gone, but you can still see the remnants of what it was.
Definitely.
And people can even see that in you,
Yeah.
When you're meeting people see you, they know you're different. They know you're this different breed of man, and it intimidates a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes that can be a little intimidating. Little do they know I'm super nice, teddy bear. But
I don't know. I feel like this chick would definitely take a piece of you and just never return it.
Yeah, and
she's got that look to her to where she's just a heart-stealing bitch.
The type of guys it takes to do the job of special operations. It takes a very driven guy who is willing to put his whole life on the line. Relationships, everything that we've talked about. And you know what? I think this girl's attracted to something like that. Special operations is attracted to that. They need this type of man to do the job. And but yeah, in the end, she will leave you for a younger man.
What's that mean to you?
So, yeah, she did want me at some point.
Who doesn't want Dan?
But enough times through the meat grinder, she's ready for that next young buck, and I get kicked to the curb. So I'm left with my memories of her. And this is the most important part of this poem to me is this final line. And
why is that?
That is because it's a very slippery slope, trying to hold on to what you once did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not letting go, in a sense of moving on and still going forward in life, and using the same drive and everything else that's left in you to move forward in the future of your life, and not sit here and be lost reminiscing in the past of this relationship with the special operations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this speaks to even just a lot of veterans or people who once did this awesome thing, right?
Yeah.
And once they lose it, they feel lost, and they're like, but I was this awesome person. And they find themselves telling people, right? Hey, don't you know I was this awesome person once?
Yeah.
And I think the sooner people are able to accept, hey, it was only a matter of time before this woman left me for somebody else, because she's way younger than me. And she's and I'm getting older, and I can't do this job we already went through like what it requires, the level of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't meet that anymore. But this young guy can. That's coming up. And the sooner, I think this line helps you accept that it was inevitable. Like, whether I stayed in 20 or 30 years or 40, whatever, there's going to come a time where it was over.
Yep.
And my time came early, but it's over. That's the truth of it. There's truth in this, this piece of artwork. And the truth is it's over and done. And I need to look somewhere else, right? Yeah. So when I wear this shirt, it reminds me of where I'm going. It's not just all about this job and how I miss it and everything. It's taking all of that, respecting it and honoring it, and then choosing to move forward with the same tenacity and drive that I would for this job. It reminds me of who I was in this and how I can take that and move it towards something else, because this is over. Mm-hmm. What's this next chapter? What's my next mistress, right?
Yeah.
What's the next thing that I'm going to pour everything I have into and do this whole cycle again until I die someday, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's why it really speaks to me, is I'm not okay with sitting on my couch or like recliner and just like drinking a beer and thinking about the time I was, you know, with the Marine Raiders and the deployments I was on. It's cool to reminisce about those every once in a while and shoot the shit with the guys. And again, that's like peeking back and like that connection to your brothers and everything, I think is important. Mm-hmm. But to just dwell on it constantly, I think is destructive.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that constant state of thinking, you know, I wish I was back there. You know, I wish I was still in it. And just getting that closure, like, this period is done. What's the next mistress in my life?
Yeah. So do you think this piece, you know, can apply? I know we talked about like special operations or, you know, your specific, you know, take on it, but I don't know, you think this can apply to people outside of, you know, like those specific jobs?
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I would like to hear from other people. I would like to see, you know, if somebody's listening to this and you're not from special operations or you're just, you know, a military veteran, or you did whatever in life.
Yeah.
If you read this poem, or if you've heard
something,
it and it speaks to you in some way, I'd like to hear what other people have to say, because that's what I'm trying to find. Yeah. I'm trying to find my next mistress. I'm just a civilian now, you know.
I think that's the beauty of We the Willing Collective is, you know, it started, you know, from, you know, a certain community, but, you know, eventually, hopefully it evolves into, you know, like a collective as far as, you know, like kind of everyone helping everyone giving back. Like, you know, personally, I don't give two fucks if, you know, like you did a specific thing, you know, because, you know, how are you helping anyone if you did that thing and you kind of just kept it to yourself and beat on your chest and thought you're better than everybody else? But I think that's the beauty of like the artwork itself, is like when I look at a piece, you know, say the Mona Lisa, you know, I look at the Mona Lisa, I feel a certain way about it. You may look at the Mona Lisa and you feel a certain way about it. But you can't help the fact that, you know, if you look back at your life experiences and try to relate them to a piece of art, that like it can still move you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can still inspire you. And I think that's pretty important for all the listeners out of there, because I think sometimes like the military community, their veteran community, we tend to shut a lot of people out that we may have something in common with, you know? And we've kind of lost that along the way because it's just one of those things where, like, whoa, we're this and they're that. And, you know,
I've actually had the chance to talk to several people about the shirt who have asked me about it while I was wearing it.
Really?
And
what did they say?
They're just kind of like, oh, like, what's that about? Or whatever. And then, you know, first thing I say is like, you know, this is SOF Mistress. And they're like, what? You know, it's confused. Like, I'm like, so it's actually a, you know, an image. It's a graphic representation of a poem.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, as soon as I say that, they're just like, it takes them off guard. They're like, whoa, like, like that isn't just a hot chick on a shirt, you know, or a pinup chick, you know, or some traditional art, you know, tattoo piece or whatever. As soon as they hear, like, whoa, there is that deeper meaning, you know, it's led to some interesting conversations with people.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that's essentially what, you know, we want to get from this whole thing. And it'd be really cool to hear some of what people think or what they see in it. Yeah. You know, and that what they see in it and what it inspires within them may really inspire someone else that, you know, they talk to or look at. And I mean, that's the power, you know, that's the power of like sitting there for 26 hours to think of a design. And
I would say the meaning can change for people. That's cool.
Absolutely.
That's the cool thing about artwork.
Absolutely.
And just like, you know, this Thor's hammer I wear and stuff like that, like different things we choose to have in our lives like that have these special meanings to us, they can shift over time. I think there is a big difference for the meaning of this poem for the guys who are still in the job. And then I think is something very special about the transitioning guy, the guy who's like in transition, and then the guy who's on the other side of that transition where he's like, he's left the job and now he's like looking for what's next, you know?
Yeah. It's pretty cool to see how it affects people in almost like the different life stages that they're going through. I mean, it's cool how you articulated that because, you know, when it was drawn and when we had painted it, you know, obviously we think about how it applies to us then and there, you know, not necessarily what it's going to mean 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or what it means to somebody when they see it on the street and go, yo, what the hell is that?
And I'm planning on getting it tattooed. That's my next tattoo I'm getting.
Nice.
Is this. And so I'll always have that reminder, you know?
So what would be your image, if you can just think one up in your head right now, what is something that you would picture your SOF Mistress being, I guess?
I would say it would have a lot of elements of what that time period was to me, you know, and maybe speak to some of the experiences through the tattoos that are on her.
Okay. So almost telling a story within a story.
A story within a story where, like what her outfit, her wearing, kind of speaking to the raiders, and then her tattoos speaking more to the, you know, the experiences I've had, whether that's like world travels or, you know, the areas I were in Afghanistan, you know, maybe some of the stuff I experienced there. And so that's sort of how I envision it. But I definitely envision it as like a nose art pen up type. And I have other traditional tattoos, so I want it to be a traditional style.
Definitely.
So that's why it fits for me.
Work on down the line.
Yeah.
Get you a cool Wheel Willing SOF Mistress tattoo.
But yeah, so I would say for people listening to this or watching this, my YouTube channel is a good format to continue this discussion. Let us know what you think about the poem. I might include it in the description. I'll write it out so people can reference it and then, look at the artwork and tell us your thoughts. Tell us, does this have meaning to you?
Mm-hmm.
Can you relate to it?
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what people have to say.
I would be too. I mean, in a perfect world, maybe people can draw something really positive out of it and move forward, like you were saying.
And maybe in the future, as you come up with more projects, we can, I can speak to how they mean to me, and we can have these discussions online.
Absolutely.
Again.
That'd be awesome, because the problem with artwork sometimes is you put it out to people and they see an image, but I think sometimes people appreciate, what the artist was thinking at the time when he created it. Context, exactly. And through that context, it still shouldn't change how it moves you individually, but it may give you some context on where that artist was thinking at the time, where he was at in his life at the time, and maybe there's something you can draw from those experiences, or find experiences you draw from itself altogether.
Yeah.
But that'd be awesome. I mean, I think this is a really good forum because there's only so much you can write, and I don't think, for me, writing is not as intimate as like talking about something that really means something to you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just because I suck at, writing stuff, but I'm a yapper.
Well, dude, yeah, I think let's wrap this talk up. But I really enjoyed talking about the SOF Mistress because when you guys brought that poem up when I was leaving, it did mean a lot to me, and it continues to mean a lot to me this day.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I have the We the Willing artwork that I can look to and be reminded of it and get it tattooed on my body like people are already doing with We the Willing artwork, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the most humbling feeling ever when you create something and some human out there has decided like, yo, I'm going to take this and blast it on my skin permanently.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not even like hey, that's fucking cool thing. Like it hits me pretty deep. I'm just like, wow. Like I'm humbled the fact that you appreciate it that much it means something to you that much that you'd want to put it on your skin.
I mean, and that could be from many layers. Even if somebody just thinks it's a cool image,
yeah,
it means enough to them that they're paying money to get it put on their body,
or that they're dedicating
or they're going through the pain, yeah, and the permanency of it. But yeah, dude, I enjoyed talking with you about this. I look forward to discussing the future artwork of We the Willing.
Most definitely, man.
Cool. Well,
catch you later.
Let's hear from you guys and girls on what you guys think about this, and let's continue the conversation.